Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Hazmat Guys Nation Roundtable, where we bring a lot of ideas from people from around the world together to help all the ships rise with the tide. I'm Bobby Salas, and you can't see me because something drastically went wrong before the show on my video camera. However, you see the illustrious and benevolent Bob Kosh.
Hello.
What's going on, man?
I'm having a glass, enjoying a nice evening in the hot, humid Florida weather. And yourself? Other than we can't see you?
Saving the world. You know, one alarm at a time.
Dude, you have been like crazy busy.
Yeah, it's been a little crazy.
Let me just interrupt one thing. You can't turn me off, Derek. That's the way it is.
That's funny.
He's supposed to be camping or something with his son. He shouldn't be doing hazmat nerd stuff with us right now.
Unbelievable. That's crazy. Dude,
tell me, you had probably one of the most interesting calls just from what I've read.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that. The fire, it was a basement fire, and then you had like 35 people with CO poisoning or something?
Oh, yeah. All right. So what we went into, it was in Lower Manhattan on Murray Street by Broadway, and what it was coming in as a suspicious package, and the workers said, well, there was construction in the building. The workers said they smelled. They opened up a box and it had an odd odor in it, and then people started getting sick. There was no fire. It was the original thought. I thought that there was a fire in this building, and people, the meters are going off the carbon monoxide, and I'm talking pretty high, like maybe 600, 700, 800 parts per million. This building, just to put it in perspective, is I think it was like 450 feet by 250 by 30 stories.
Holy shit!
Yeah, so it was big, but what really came down to was, because of the unknown, we were limited with our ventilation, and it seemed that one of the boilers was misfiring, and so high levels were found throughout the whole building. Ventilation, again, was hampered, and the weather that day was like 104 degrees with 200% humidity. So
Florida weather.
Yeah, so Florida standard operating procedures. But once we hit the fans, it dropped quickly from 300, 400 parts per million down to 30 quickly. But the cops are still looking into it. And it turned out it was just somebody's crappy smelling lunch in a pail. That's really what it was. So everybody was sick because of the carbon monoxide. But I'm not going to put very much past it, because I've seen quite a few times this happens where, one person doesn't feel good and then somebody else goes, that's a great idea. Today's a beautiful day. I don't feel good either. I'm going home.
Or it's Friday and we want a long weekend.
Yes. So everybody starts going, I'm going to see Dr. Summeroff then. So
Summeroff, I like that.
So everybody starts running for the hills. CO detectors in the mechanical room? I don't think there were, but my job has every engine company, actually every company has at least one carbon monoxide meter. So they were confirmed across. Everybody was roving and monitoring. They had a technical engine, which is pretty much a technician unit, do a little bit more intensive monitoring. But it was basically just a carbon monoxide alarm. That's what we thought it was.
So how do you guys ventilate a 35-story building?
It takes a long time.
Do you have like special units for that, or?
No. What we'll do is we'll hijack the HVAC systems. So for like the lower ones, it gets very difficult. But a lot of these big buildings will have access doors in the walls of the concrete that will lead to some type of sidewalk vent or the subway, or so we can positively pressurize a zone and kind of push it through. It's not easy. It takes a long time. And then we can hijack the HVAC and utilize like the plenum spaces above the drop ceilings and the floor above, and kind of get that return space and basically vent outside with the mechanical system.
Nice. And then I think after that, you guys did you go from there straight to Harlem? This is, by the way, for everybody that is listening, I know there's only a few because everybody's in Baltimore, which we'll talk about in a minute, except for us. Then you went from there to Harlem for another interesting run. You had quite the busy day.
Yeah, it was an interesting day. We went to Harlem to Mount Sinai Hospital. I want to say it was Mount Sinai Hospital for a Freon leak. And we didn't know why. We didn't know what it was for. And there was various different reports of what it was. And we had everything from R134A to R22 to R200. And I think R200 is propane, if I'm not mistaken about that. I don't remember if somebody wants to look that up.
I think so.
R200.
Sure either.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was. But the thing that really got us was that somebody was cleaning around this tank, and they broke the sight glass. And we were like, oh, okay, a sight glass, not a big deal. It was 1,400 pounds of the refrigerant.
Wow.
So that adds a little bit of a dynamic to this. One of our first things, most of these refrigerants are not only cold and have extreme, very large expansion rates, but they are usually simple asphyxiants.
Right.
So
what kind of air monitoring did you guys use?
I believe we used our halocarbon monitor, which in where we work, we use the Burt Baccarat meter. Thank you. Its propane is R290. I always apologize. I think it was 290 because some reason we were laughing at it, going, "Why is there propane?" That's a rather large amount of propane, which I think is legal in New York City, but I'm not an expert on that. But anyway, we use the Baccarat meter, which is our Freon meter, which we like. It is a big square box and it works pretty well. I'm not giving any props to them, though it does do a very good job on it. We call it the Burt Baccarat. But anyway, and we also used our standard 5-gas meter, which has the standard 4 with a PID add-on. And we also used, I don't remember the exact model, but it is made by TIFF, and it is a Freon sniffer. It's basically just one of those qualitative, not quantitative, and so it just beeps.
Like the old gas meters we used to use.
Yes, and it'll give you a point-specific location of where the leak is, but it was kind of simple. This was kind of easy to figure out where it was, but it wasn't a big deal. And I wasn't on the inside of this one. I apologize for not knowing all the specifics of this, but I do know that they went inside and it was handed over to the building, pretty much. I think it auto-refrigerated, and I think they had a contract to come in to offload it. But don't hold me to that. I'm not really sure about that.
So we were teaching a local fire department, our Hazmat technician program here in Florida is 160 hours.
Okay.
And this department is sending 5 classes. We're at class number 4 right now. And one of the questions kept coming up today, talking about incidents like yours, because I threw it out there, was what type of PPE should be worn? And I know we've talked about this many times on the show. A lot of people talk about, level A all the way and all that. And I don't want to go into a whole PPE show because if you look back, if you guys go to YouTube, you can scroll through and see, or go to the Hazmat Guys podcast and download where it talks about PPE. But what did your guys wear on the initial entry for this?
Bunker gear and SCBA. And
because it was simple asphyxiant, right?
Right. That's my whole issue is the asphyxiation. So if you talk about something, for example, R22 is chlorodifluoromethane, right? So it has very little skin transmittable. In fact, it's almost negligible. Let's see, irritant. I'm looking this up. I don't have this stuff memorized, but the TWA is 1,000 parts per million. Inhalation hazard, irritation in the respiratory system, frostbite. That's basically what my problems are. So, I mean, you talk about what my hazards are, it's basically a respiratory problem. And then you talk about a cold issue. Well, our bunker gear is great for hot. It sucks for cold. So, I would see us going in, okay, let me give him my cryo gloves, my bunker gear, which will give me my thickness against my skin, the bulk of it, and my SCBA. And I can pretty much handle most of these cryos. I'm going to say just about all of them.
Well, in the bunker gear and SCBA, you can actually handle quite a bit of stuff.
Yeah.
And what we were trying to, and this is something you guys can do at home around the firehouse, is take the NIOSH book, throw it on the table, and pick a chemical. Have each person pick a chemical and go through the properties and just roundtable it. Hey, what do you think we should wear? Instead of waiting on the call or for the call to come out 3 o'clock in the morning, oh, what should we wear? And we're looking through this book. Just randomly pick something through the NIOSH book or MSDS sheets or whatever you want to do it. And you can do a real quick 10-minute drill sitting at the kitchen table on what kind of PPE we're going to wear.
Dude, there are so many things in a NIOSH that people, you know what? I don't expect you to have a NIOSH in front of you, but give me a number between 1 and, well, how about 20 and 300? Any number.
30.
30. All right, let me find page 30. Okay, on page 30 is borates, tetrasodium salts. On there tells you your decontamination solution. This is a little, now this is not perfect, but it's really close. In the bottom right is the first aid box. And in there is skin. And the first thing it says is soap wash. Well, there's my Decon solution, soap. Simple as that. Yep. 69. Derek's saying 69. Let's go to 69. We can play this game all night. I like this. 69. Let's go with O-chlorotoluene. First aid, skin, soap, wash immediately. Okay, again, soap. So it'll either say wash with soap, wash with water. It'll say fresh air, in which case you would use ventilation because it has a very high vapor pressure. So basically you can really come down to 3 different methodologies of decontamination. It's going to be water, soap and water, ventilation. And now we're kind of coming into what if it's friable? What if it's a dust? What if it's fentanyl? And a lot of people, and I subscribe to it, wet it down, but not I'm not douching the guy with a hose line because I'm driving it through. I'd say, get some rags, whatever, wet, soapy, and just kind of wash the guy down, keeping it down. So when he takes his gear off, he doesn't get the old poof in the face.
Yep. And that was actually one of the drills we did today. That if you guys haven't seen it, we'll try to put it on either Hazmat Nation or the Hazmat guys, whichever. But how many people practice getting out of their bunker gear so to minimize the cross contamination? And it could just be from a house fire. Mm-hmm. And the products of combustion, everything that end up on our gear and our helmets and all the things that make us look salty, but unfortunately give us cancer. So how do you practice, or do you practice getting out of that gear appropriately to minimize that? And, that's something that, again, we'll try to post, but it's a simple, 5-minute drill. You can do at the firehouse step by step. And it's just about a systematic way of taking your stuff off. Your helmet, your air pack stays in front of you. Your hood comes over your mask and down the hose. You reach in and undo your coat, and you just methodically work through that process. And I tell you what, it's a good little drill you can do around the firehouse.
It is, and you try to stay on air as long as possible.
Right. Last thing that should come off is your mask, and you
right.
just walk away and let it free flow.
Right, because who cares? The air's free. I'm not paying for it,
Right.
And you try to do it as best you can, and then you basically got to go and you got to wash. Because wash your face, wash your hands, because that's the biggest places for it to transmit.
Exactly.
So, oh wait,
Mike is coming on.
Mike's here.
Shh.
Oh my God! Thank God he's here. Oh,
maybe not.
All right. Well,
Well, we'll keep going. There he is. Look at that gorgeous mug. Yep.
Yes.
And we can see you, unlike Bobby.
Oh Jesus!
Something's wrong with my screen.
We can hear him though.
I had to break into my own car.
You had to break into your own car?
Yeah. All right. And now I'm back on track. What are we talking about?
We're talking about the diiso dilution of different halides and thiols. We're getting a little deep, but no, I'm totally too fucking.
Decon?
I'm talking about Decon. Yeah, we were just going through. We were actually just going through NIOSH. Not using the NIOSH to figure out your Decon solution. It's a real simple way of doing it, but we were just getting into dry Decon, and Bob was telling us about his technique.
Or your PPE selection. One of the things we were talking about was taking the NIOSH book, throwing it on the kitchen table at the firehouse, somebody picking a chemical, and going through, what do you think you should wear? What air monitors do you think you need? And then what Decon solution? And you can just spin it around at lunchtime or after lunch. So we're just kind of going through some stuff. And what we just talked about was, it's not practice a lot. Some of the guys saw it probably on my Facebook page or whatever, and we'll try and put it on Hazmat Nation or the Hazmat guys website of how to systematically get out of your bunker gear and minimize cross-contamination, even if it's just from a fire. Because we all know that now the big thing is cancer from the helmets, from the Nomex hoods and whatever. So we try to minimize it, Decon, so on and so on. So just going around and throwing an NIOSH book out, picking a page and working through those different steps.
I was ahead of that curve.
Of course you were.
Derek, that's a great point, is that we should be showering after we come out of PPE, and that's an absolute truth. If I had somebody that was exposed to a chemical and they took off their clothes, I would assume they were going to be showering as well. Why do we come out of fires and don't shower? It's like,
I don't know. The company that I'm with, I've never seen them shower after a job. Bob, I don't know. Maybe you can give some insight as to.
I like to shower a lot. I like to stay and clean.
I'm not going to touch that one.
So
what is it? If you don't, I hope I don't throw things off track. I apologize if I do. But what is it? Do you guys have some a technique that you haven't seen other people employ in taking off your bunker gear? That you do something special, or is it just the general kind of, don't flail around, take your mask off, put it in front of you, keep your face piece on, take your jacket off? Yeah,
and that's exactly what it is. And what we try to do is we teach it to our new hires that come on. And then what we've been doing for the last few years is, as part of the Decon segment of our Hazmat Tech program, we throw that in there where we have all the guys in bunker gear and SCBA. They stand in a straight line and they systematically go through doffing their air pack, their helmet, their hood over the mask, down the hose, getting out of their coat, pulling the coat off, undoing the bunker pants, stepping out and stepping away and letting the mask come off their face without touching it and letting it free flow. It's a real simple procedure that a lot of people don't think about. And somebody asked me today, said, well, that's for a hazmat call, right? And I said, well, what's a fire? And they said, well, it's a fire. And I go, yeah. And what's in a fire that's burning? what's in a fire from 30 years ago compared to what's in a house fire, regular wood frame house fire today. So many more different things. And I told him, I said, listen, how many people died of cancer 30 years ago? Probably close to, I should say close. We still had some, probably wasn't as reported as much, but now all the different things that everything's made out of, we see this increase. We got to think about that cancer potential even more, and how we can minimize it.
And we're seeing the culture change. And I was talking to a set of probies at a convention, not a convention, but a seminar that I was at, a lecture, and they were listening, and shockingly, it was like the first time they had ever heard this stuff. And they're like, "Well, then how come we don't do stuff like this?" And I was saying, "Well, because you have to remember that it takes generations. It takes like 2 generations before these ideas become implemented. Like, when to these probies, I was saying, by the time you have 15 years on, your generation will be the ones that are starting to take over the leadership roles of the fire department, and you will take the things that you learn now as a probie and you will apply them to the new probies coming on, and that is how the culture changes. Unfortunately, it's a very slow process, but it has changed a lot since I got on, and it will continue to change more as those probies become 15, 20-year people and move up the ranks.
Oh, absolutely. And that's a mindset. Derek is just typed in a good point that at least in Florida and fire standards, they get hazmat ops in that. So this self-decon of your bunker gear should be taught at the operational level in the fire academy. Unfortunately, one specific teaching agency, and I won't name them out, the first thing they do is hand them the ERG and start bad-mouthing hazmat. And that's not, you got 18, 19, 20-year-old kids, and that's not what we should be doing. And I'm not going to get on a soapbox about it, but, it is what it is, and it's here to stay, and it's what's going to kill you. That's my soapbox.
No, that's good.
So anyway, what do you got, Mike? We talked about some of Bobby's calls that he's had the other day. You got anything?
Oh, geez.
Except the pink eraser on your pencil? That's cute. Yes. I like that.
You like it?
Yeah.
We had an interesting run a couple of weeks ago. I keep trying to bring it on, but then more cooler things prevail, which is good. But we had a run where Hazmat 1 got on scene, and there were already tech units there, and they were saying that they weren't getting hits on anything. And a lot of times we turn around and we go, "Oh, we don't need to remonitor because somebody already did it." But you never know if somebody actually did it the right way. So take the time to redo it. What it ended up being, or what it was essentially another pesticide run for us. In Manhattan, there's cockroaches the size of Dachshund hounds, and everybody tries to get rid of them themselves, and you just can't. So they try more and more different things to try to get rid of them. This person had let a pesticide loose in his room, and when this other company went in to go monitor, all they really did was stand there at the door, go in a little bit and be like, "Yeah, no, there's nothing here." When our guys went in, they did a full, head to foot, floor to ceiling type monitoring. They walked around, and as we learned this in our tech classes, that meter is only going to sense what's around it by about the size of a softball at the tip. So if I have a tip this big and the chemical is here, it's not going to pick it up. You literally have to move that meter all over the place to try to pick something up. And they ended up getting a hit on their phosphorus channel on the AP4C. So that helped to confirm that we were in fact dealing with some kind of a pesticide or an herbicide of some sort. So when you're going through the apartments or house or whatever it is, be willing to do that secondary search, because you might do it just differently than somebody else, and that different may pick something up. And remember to get a good good sampling of the area. Go up, go high, go mid. Yes, a lot of things mix in air currents. So something that would hang low to the floor isn't necessarily going to be at the floor. It could also be at the ceiling. It could be mid-range. So don't sit there and go, well, I can meter low because most things are low. Air currents can pull things around the room. So, do everything. Go everywhere. Hit what you can. Because we went in there and we did a systematic metering search, we were able to determine that it was in fact pesticide, which ultimately makes the chief happy because he can go home, and when he's happy, we're happy, and everybody's happy.
Awesome. That is true. Got to make the chief happy to some extent, anyway.
You really do that. That's half of our job, is to make the person feel comfortable. By saying, we don't. I believe that we don't have anything here, and these are my reasons why, and be able to break it down to a level of what we like to call a fifth grader. Not saying that Chief Lucky Test is necessarily a fifth grader, but you have to make it easy for them to digest so that they can walk away feeling comfortable that they're leaving the scene in whatever condition it's in.
Right. Absolutely. I know we're getting close to time, but I want to throw in there something really quick that I saw in Hazmat Nation that was an interesting little accident they had. And, this could happen anywhere in USA. There was a little crash that they had that involved medical isotopes, it sounds like. And so they had a radiation run out of this. So what a lot of units are starting to do, ours do, I know you guys do, is they have just a radiation pager on their rig in case they came up on a scene or something like that. So this was an auto accident in Nashville when they noticed that it was medical radiation on board. They called the hazmat team. What we had years ago, and one of our hazmat truck companies went on this wreck, and just by simply using the rad pager, they were able to make a hot zone. Although they didn't have a Ludlam, they were able to make a hot zone by getting close enough, and then when it vibrated, that's how they determined their hot zone. Kind of, very rudimentary, but it worked. And people don't think that, is that stuff still dangerous? Well, yeah, it is to a point, especially when you have 10 or 15 boxes of it that potentially have broken inside their containers. In and of themselves, not really. But there's just a real quick, simple way. Just that simple rad pager was able to give you your real quick isolation zones. So that was just something I want to throw in there before we get close to signing off.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that, we talk all the time about the radiation, and when we initially have, for us, anytime we've told all of our firefighters, anytime you hear of a report of an explosion, the first thing you should be thinking of is a dirty bomb. Not because it's likely to happen, but because if you don't think about that and you walk into a cloud of radiation particles up in the air and you breathe that in, game over. There's no going back from that. So if you do go on scene and you're approaching the scene of an explosion or something like that, and your radiation meters start going off, one of the first things you need to seriously consider is putting your mask on right then and there. Think that it's in the air until you are proven otherwise. You might as well, because you may be the only idiot walking around with a mask on, but when something happens, you'll be the only idiot alive 2 weeks from then.
That's true. Very true indeed.
I love it. All right, let's wrap this thing up. We'll go with Bob Kosh. Where can we find you?
You can find me at hcmtlt@gmail.com or hcmtlt at Twitter. And just to remind everybody that's going to Baltimore, I won't be there. I think used to's guys are going to be there, starting tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Yes.
Tomorrow. The party is tomorrow night or Saturday?
Saturday night. No,
Saturday
tomorrow
night.
night. Tomorrow night. Sorry.
Tomorrow night at Peter's Poorhouse. Make sure you guys show up. Yes, Derek, or you and I can go to Wally's here in Orlando. Absolutely. First round's on you, pal. So make sure if you are in the Baltimore area, look up the rest of the boys. And last year was a good time. We met a lot of great people and just swapped stories. And I learned just as much from them as probably way more than they learned from me.
Very nice. Mike?
I will be in Baltimore for anyone that is down there. You can reach me at mike@thehazmatguys.com. We are asking the community to submit questions to us, and for a new segment called Ask the Hazmat Guys. I'm sure Bob already selfishly plugged it multiple times, but I will do it as well. You can email ask@thehazmatguys.com. I think that's pretty much it. Mick Jal, I wish you were in Baltimore as well.
And I am Bobby. I'm the other half of the Hazmat Guys podcast, and I will be as well in Baltimore. Looking forward to seeing everybody there. Check out the podcast and check out our new show, Ask the Hazmat Guys, where you can throw us a question and we answer it in the show. And if it's a good question, which actually we just got a really good one that we're forming a show around, we will make it into a real full show on the other one. So check it out on iTunes and Google Music and Stitcher and wherever you find your podcast. So that's it, I think. And we'll see you next Thursday. Bye.
So see you next Thursday.